Yeah.
And did they charge you for the facilities?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. Well, anybody else?
Well, I think it's definitely a good thing to do, because it's a non-agenda item, we can't take a formal action on it tonight. Which I think speaks to Councilmember Mazzoni, asking about an earlier audience, but I, for one, support it. I think it's a good thing to be doing, to bring the community together. And I think it's something that we should, maybe have some discussion with staff, and would highly encourage you to reach out to other organizations such as the Chamber, Recreations and Parks District, and Weed Rotary, to see if they can help with any, you know, even if it's not financial, if you can get volunteers, or even ideas to help support that.
Okay.
You know, the Family Resource Center, you know, there's a lot of, not as many as there was in the past, but there's still some number of groups here locally that I think would be interested in supporting your efforts as well.
Okay.
I'm in a couple different groups besides this one. I'll put the word out.
Okay, thank you.
And give-
Mr. Mayor?
Can I get back to you through the resource center?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I think that's where I got the email. I already had it on my calendar.
Yeah, she's back there.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to appreciate your effort. One thing to think about is your TOT monies or something, and if this is something that brings heads and beds, the TOT is Transportation Occupancy Tax. And that every July, we hand out money supporting different efforts. But if you get through this year and keep track of your records and somehow pull it off, come back, and that's, I think, probably the best thing we can actually do, if that's possible.
Yeah, we figured we were a little late on it, you know,
Yeah.
that's for the moment. We plan on moving a little forward next year, and we're keeping good records of it already at this point.
Yeah.
Plus, if you go to different organizations, you should maybe figure out a dollar number as far as how much you're gonna need to pull this off, as far as food costs and participation anyway.
That's what we're figuring out at this point.
Right.
We're
Okay.
throwing money at it, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Because you're coming at us with a blank slate, and it's really hard for us to make
understand that.
decisions.
We figured we gotta get the
Okay.
ball rolling one way or the other.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good step. And are you doing advertisements?
We're
Yes.
throwing flyers out there talking to people.
Yeah.
And obviously on the Facebook or
Yeah, it's on Facebook too.
just start knocking on doors, maybe.
We're telling a lot of people, we got a lot of flyers posted, we can get it out
Yeah.
there. Say we're gonna move it forward a little bit next year.
If I can come up with any ideas, I'll get a hold of either one of you.
Okay.
Get a hold of
Yeah,
you.
that's-
Or Marlene.
That's what we look for.
Okay.
You guys give us some suggestions, so we can go along with this. It's our
Okay.
first time, we understand that. It's a learning curve.
That's it. Keep up the faith.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, thank you for taking that first step, because
Yeah,
that's what
thank
it
you
needs
for
to
helping.
get something in motion.
Looking forward to it.
Any other non-agenda public comment? All right, we'll move on to council member announcements, meeting reports, and comments. And we will start with Councilmember Hall.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a report this month, sorry.
Okay. Councilmember Mazzoni?
I do have a real quick brief one. I attended the LAFCO meeting this Tuesday, and what's going on right now, there's in the valley there, Fort Jones and Etna are trying to maybe combine for the fire district to open up some boundaries. And they would kind of work together on it. Nothing has been solved on it, and it's just discussion right now for open. I asked about weed when they went through it. Weed's borders were not gonna change, it's gonna stay the same. But there are gonna be, what they propose, there'll be a few little borders in South Wairika, Gazelle, Grenada. But we've carried on the meeting until next Tuesday, or October the 8th. And we're hoping that the public will actually show up, because there wasn't a whole lot of audience there at that time. But it's definitely something that, like I said, they've got a list of what they want to do, but nothing is solved. We're just in the talking stages right now, so
Is this regarding all of just fire districts?
yes,
Okay.
all the fire districts. And it shows, there's some that are overlapping, and I understand some of the chiefs that were there, their concerns, they're gonna go on calls no matter what. But they're using their own funds and, equipment, and maybe another district could be helping out with it. But it's a good thing, and they're just putting out a line, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So if anyone has the time on the 8th of October at 9 AM, up in the supervisor's building or chambers, that would be a nice place to come and get your opinions out or have more knowledge, because if this goes out without the public knowing, you can see some people are gonna get upset about it, so that's what we're at, that's all I have.
Were there chiefs there, fire
Yeah,
chiefs at the meeting?
Well, there was, the South. the
South Wairika?
Yeah,
Bernie was
Bernie,
there.
and then there was the head guy from Cal Fire,
Okay.
but that was it.
Well, I certainly think it would be good for, a lot more fire chiefs to be involved in that,
I
including
agree.
ours, and,
Well,
now,
everybody's.
the other question I have is this accessible to the public to attend via Zoom or other electronic?
Well,
means?
it may be possible, we kinda got rid of the Zoom because no one ever showed up. So, that's something I can look into, but that was discussed, I don't think they've come to the decision with that, on there.
Okay.
And a lot of questions that were being asked, they were your supervisor's questions, and I just kinda sat back in my chair, and that's something they need to bring up with supervisors, but, I think that's a possibility, and I'll look into that to find out.
Okay, well, thank you for that report,
You're
because that's, affects the entire county, so. Councilmember Tavalaro?
Yeah, I was at a meeting at 8:30, so the supervisors could go to that, transportation meeting. And it was just an emergency one that we had a few things on, so nothing on that. But I do want to, talk about Weed Elementary School is celebrating National Walk, Bike, and Roll to School Day, October 9th. And we all have the information, well, they left. And there's some back there on the back. It's going to be Weed Elementary, Weed Police Department is helping, Weed Fire Department is helping, and they are going to start at 2 different spots, the Weed High School football field, or this information says Heritage Park. It's not Heritage Park, I think it's called Cougar Park, but it's right here by the Merc. At 7:45, leave at 8. About 50 students from Weed will walk to the school. I don't know if some were on bikes. I know that PD's gonna do a bike rally or something a couple days before. And they want us involved. I'm not real sure how, but I'll find out and I'll tell Steve so Steve can get it out to us. Whether we're all gonna walk up the hill to school that morning? Wouldn't that be fun, Ken?
That's not gonna happen. Not unless you wanna roll me up there.
You could push a bike. Anyway, so mark your calendars for October 9th. And that's all I have. I haven't gone to any other meetings.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Palfini?
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. I just wanted to report that the senior lunch program is averaging around 90 seniors every Monday and the same day, and that's over at the community center. We have 12 to 20 seniors for exercise and 20 to 28 for bingo afterwards. I want to thank the City Council for the funding. I also want to thank the Siskiyou Democrats for giving us 6 to 8 volunteers every Monday. Our seniors are spoiled. They get table service, catered meal, and it's only 1 day a week, but I know they appreciate it just by the attendance alone. I also have the privilege of going to this Collier Information and Interpretation Center every month, and we are having a celebration to christen a new trail around the Collier Center on North Siskiyou Rest Center. It's a 3-mile trail alongside the river and the grounds, and we're also celebrating the retirement of Grace Bennett from the Board of Directors, and we're sending out invites to every council member. It's also on October 9th, but it's starting at 11 o'clock or so. You all get an invite by email. I would probably encourage at least the board, if they can make it up there, that this is a pretty spectacular site, and we're trying to get it kind of pushed forward a little bit so that cities will support it a little bit better. We could use the funding for support as long as the cities can see the benefit. And that's part of this push, along with hopefully a new website. Anyway, that's it for me.
So Ken, that's the 9th at
Yes.
11 o'clock
11 o'clock.
at the rest stop?
And it'll be outside, so that we just need a RSVP as to how many people will be there, because it's gonna be a catered thing, so.
What time?
11 o'clock,
3-mile walk, huh?
it's a 3-mile walk around there. You don't have to walk it, it's just.
It is?
We just, yeah.
Wow.
That's what I said.
That's pretty nice.
But it's along the river and then
Yeah.
along the outskirts
You're
and
gonna
then
draw
back.
a lot of folks, and that's a nice move.
Yeah, it should be nice.
Nice move.
So-
And then they got those,
In between.
the sign things too,
They have
right? That was all
signs,
done? That got all
signs
finished?
for, all of the natural landscape items, the plants and stuff.
Yeah, because they got some of that from,
And then we're gonna have a sign for Grace, who
Hilton.
spent 25 years up there as well. So at least I think 25, maybe more. But I believe you'll all get an invite. I'm sorry I gave up all your emails, so it's the least I could do for them. So anyway, thanks.
All right, well, I don't have an official report. I didn't attend any special meetings since the last council meeting. I would like to remind everyone that we are going to be having our annual trunk or treat on October 26th. And while we will have a council meeting before then, I would highly encourage our community to start preparing now. We have thousands of children and parents participate every year. It's a good, safe, fun event for the community, and I hope to see more people participate with bringing out vehicles and doing decorations and things like that. And then certainly, of course, come join us to take your kids on a safe trick-or-treating event. All right, well, now we will move on to the consent agenda. I will go through these, and if there's anything we need to pull or, for further discussion, we'll go through at that time. So A is finance by motion. Council will consider adopting Resolution 41, 2024, approving the creation of Fund 25, which is our forfeiture fund. Item B by motion, approve minutes from August 8th, 2024 regular meeting and the August 20th, 2024 special meeting. Item C by motion, approve payment warrants dated August 8th through August 22nd, 2024, included any voided warrants totaling $1.8 million. And item D by motion, approve and file month-end report for August of 2024. Do we have any items that council feels need to be removed for extended discussion, or any questions for staff?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain. I wasn't here.
Okay. All right, so motion carries with a vote of 4 and 1 abstention. We have no items removed from consent agendas. Now we will move on to the next item, which is our public hearing. We will hold a public hearing to discuss an appeal of the Planning Commission decision on August 21st for a use permit to sell drug paraphernalia at 375 South Weed Boulevard from Legend 295 Incorporated. And so now we will go ahead and open that public hearing. And actually, sorry, we will hear staff reports presented before we open.
Mr. Mayor, before I give a planning staff report, I think I'd like to hear from the chief, please.
It'd be my recommendation to the council to table this at this time due to an ongoing criminal investigation, felony investigation regarding the business and sales of items.
All right.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Do you want to continue it to a date certain, or do you want to, I mean, we do need to provide this individual with their appeal, right? So, and I'm not sure, and maybe Mark Teague.
I would,
has the information. Is there a certain deadline in which the council is required to rule on an appeal? Is there like a 60-day deadline or anything like that in our code that you're aware of?
It's nothing about rule. The council has to establish a public hearing date, which I believe they've done. So to my way of thinking at this point, they could continue to a date certain, which could be complicated, Mr. Attorney, because we don't know how long the investigation will take or what the conclusion will be. Or perhaps they could simply say, open the public hearing and then deny the appeal to fulfill that obligation of our code. And then at the end of it, do so without prejudice. So if it came back later, we could reconsider. But I think in this particular instance, the pending investigation trumps the part of the code that we're worried about. We've set the hearing, we're here, and at this point, staff would recommend denial of the appeal and upholding planning commission recommendation in any event. But there's nothing in our code that says they have to act within a certain time other than to set the public hearing point. That was a lot of words and didn't answer your question.
So it looks like I'm just looking at the council shall render a decision within 45 days after filing of an appeal, and that's 1840-060. So one option the council you have would be to continue it. Since it's 45 days, you'd probably just continue it to the next hearing to determine whether or not the appellant wants to proceed or whether or not the investigation has concluded. And if neither of those, if the investigation is ongoing and the appellant wishes to proceed, then my advice would be to provide the appellant with due process that he's entitled to under our municipal code and hear the appeal at that point. So I guess your options right now, and you could hear from the appellant if you want, is to table this subject to it being re-noticed, continued until the October meeting, the regular October meeting, or to begin the public hearing and hear the testimony and make a decision this evening.
I have a question for staff or for Justin. Does the criminal investigation impact our discussion on allowing this public hearing?
well, I believe it would.
Okay.
It's a, so just to lay a little bit of what my anticipated time frame is, I would anticipate the case is completed. I mean, it was just generated today. The case will be completed and submitted to the district attorney's office by the next council meeting. I don't know if the district attorney's office will have reviewed that and declined or filed charges by that time. But a case was just pulled today for violations, state violations of selling items, actually 3 different types of items not related to the appeal tonight.
Okay.
But there were violations today also associated with the appeal today. So
We have to remember these are allegations of law enforcement. So there hasn't been a finding. There hasn't even been a decision by the district attorney to prosecute. So it's still
all
preliminary.
violations were witnessed by me, so it's not going to be hearsay. I was the one that went in there and observed the violations.
Since the person is here, could we open the hearing, hear from the person since he's here, and then table it for a decision until after post-investigation?
So at this point, we've been giving guidance from staff that we have the option to table or make a decision. I would like to move forward with the public hearing now that we've heard all of the options that we have in our decision-making process, unless there is anyone on the council who feels differently.
I think we should table it until the investigation's over.
And
That's my opinion.
and that is something we can do as a process of the public hearing as an outcome.
So in the meantime, no one's been convicted of anything.
No.
Does the business continue to stay open if they're in violations of 3 different violations?
So I believe per the municipal code, that's gonna fall back to the city clerk, to request a hearing regarding continued business license issuance based on the violation of state law.
That's my concern.
That would need a hearing, a separate hearing at another
Right.
time.
In regards to
Mr.
the
Mayor,
business.
let me, if I heard you properly, what you were advising was for us obviously, this does affect our, our decision if, the investigation does. But you were saying we're gonna go ahead with the process of letting the,
Yeah, so if we open the public hearing, then the proponent and opponents of this can speak their piece. We know from our direction from staff that we have the option to table this as opposed to approval or denial of the application at this time is one of our options.
I concur.
So I feel that giving the, both the proponents and the opponents the chance to speak on, any facts that they may have, whether it's tabled or not, I think it's their right of process to have their moment to speak. So, if there's no objections, we will now open the public hearing and, we will hear
Would you like to?
presentations. Yes, sir.
Would you like to hear from staff first?
Well, we just did our staff report, I
Well,
believe.
Mr. Teague hasn't provided his report from planning. That's
Okay.
all.
Well, let's hear Mr. Teague's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, or council, I apologize, members of the council. Before you this evening is an appeal of a planning commission decision that occurred on August 21st of this year. The use permit that was being considered at the time by the planning commission was to allow for the sale of drug paraphernalia and at 375 South Weed. This would be a business that would sell other items in addition, and our code does provide for that. The commission considered the item and went through the findings that occur in our municipal code for the sale of drug paraphernalia. And at the conclusion of the public hearing, decided that the city did not need another drug paraphernalia sales location and denied the project. They did approve the sign permit to go with the existing business because it's an existing sign casing and they were just replacing the facing. And they had nothing to say at all about the existing business that was there because it is legally existing within our commercial zone district. After the planning commission meeting, the applicant appealed, which is why the item is before you this evening. The staff report and all of the information is included in your packet, I believe following about page 26 or so of the PDF that you've been given. Staff is available for any questions. As we mentioned, the planning commission recommended denial, and as a representative of the planning commission before you this evening, we are consistent with that recommendation.
All right, thank you. We will now open the public hearing and begin with the presentation by the project proponent or consultant.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, well, this is kind of a surprise. It's clear to me that whatever's going on is more important than this use permit.
Can you give
I'm
us
sorry,
your
I
name and
forgot to
address?
give you my name. I apologize. My name is Kurt Reichel, and I represent the applicant. Whatever's going on obviously is going to supersede this use permit application, and we would be okay. Obviously, I didn't know anything about this until just now, but I'm sure everybody would be okay on our end if we table this thing until the outcome of the investigation. And I don't know what the legal ramifications are for us. Just saying, we waive our 45-day time period, let's table it until everything's decided, and then we can come back and you can make a decision from there. I think that's an important thing, that these guys need time to do what they're doing, and I think that's numero uno.
All right, is there anything else you'd like to add information-wise, or?
There's nothing else for me to add because I know nothing about it, and as they proceed with their investigation, the light of day will shine on the truth, and we'll all decide what we need to do when we get there.
All right, well, thank you for your
I don't think there's any
presentation.
other way to do it, really.
Now we will hear testimony from any interested parties, if any. Seeing as there is none, and obviously no rebuttal, is there any staff response to what's been presented here in regards to the waiving of the 45 days and petition to table until the investigation concludes?
Not sure that anyone is knocking.
Okay. All right, well,
I think, counsel, I think you have two options based on what the appellant's representative has just testified to. You could either deny the appeal, and that would end it. But you'd have to find, based on substantial evidence, that the applicant does not meet the requirements for a use permit. Otherwise, I think there's a very low risk if the council wants to agree to table this until such time as the criminal investigation has concluded. That is likely going to be much longer than 45 days. So the benefit for the applicant there is that they wouldn't have to go back and reapply to the planning commission. They would be able to come back to the council for that. So that's the benefit to them of doing it that way.
well, I certainly have questions for staff, but I'll ask the rest of the council if you have any questions for staff before we move forward.
I don't.
I don't have really
You
questions.
pretty much said it all.
I don't, and it's too much detail. I mean,
We don't have any details.
So
I mean, yeah.
Lack of.
I am one of the 6 people that watch the YouTube videos for the planning commission. So I watched that whole 27-minute meeting, and of course diligently read through our agenda packets every month and the information therein. And one of the questions that I have for staff, and I don't know, you may have to not answer my question because of the pending investigation that's being started, is it appeared to me from the planning commission meeting that the reason the applicant had applied for this conditional use permit was because there had been sales previously at that location of items that required the permit for sales. And now we have a pending investigation in regards to potential sales or allegations of sales of items or witness thereof. And so the reason I asked this question is because this, for me, helps me to determine whether this is a denial or a tabling for my part. Because it is one thing to mistakenly sell products without a conditional use permit or engage in a business activity. As a business owner who does business with one of my companies here within the city limits and has held a business license for a number of years, I've done my due diligence before I sell products to make sure that they are legal to be sold here within this municipality. And I certainly can understand making the mistake of not knowing, but there's once time is making a mistake, a second time is intentional. And so and I'm gonna have to rely on our city attorney to hear if this is a question that I can get an answer to or not, or if this is something that we can't broach because of the pending investigation. Because obviously we're not aware as a council to all of the specifics other than sales of items that shouldn't be sold, so to speak.
I don't have specific information about the pending investigation. To the extent that your question relates to the initiation of the application for a use permit, that's already likely in the record, and it's something that staff could respond to. I don't have that information off the top of my head.
So the reason why we're here today is, yes, and this is unrelated to today, today's case that was opened in May of this year. The business was operating both without a business license and without a city municipal code required paraphernalia license. That incident and case has concluded with a citation to an owner, a person who stated that they're an owner. Today's case is going to be separate from that. The items that were being sold today are regulated under state law, not under the city municipal code.
Okay. All right, that was the only questions that I had for staff.
Well, now you've led me to ask a question. So they never applied for a business license or any kind of license, right?
Not until case was created, and they weren't cited until the 29th of May, because obviously the clerk that was there that day, I went in there personally, the business was open, the sign was open, this was on a Sunday, they offered to sell me something, they had a wall full of items that fall under our paraphernalia ordinance. I brought a uniformed officer in. Approximately 10 days later, the owner came into Weed PD lobby and was cited on an administrative site for the violation of not having a paraphernalia permit. I did not add on the citation, the violation of the, I don't like to stack charges on people. One charge was enough on that, so, you know, one penalty. So he only was cited for the paraphernalia, not for not having the business license. But that initiated them coming into City Hall to get a business license, and then coming in to get the application for the use permit and paraphernalia license.
And so what you're saying is that it happened twice. It
Well-
happened this time and again?
I'm setting aside the sensitive nature of what is being sold. And I'm looking at this strictly from a standpoint of, I can understand, making a mistake as a new business owner on not having a license for the products you're selling. My concern is that there was no application for a business license to begin with, and that now we have a potential, sales of state regulated products.
Okay, I see. So you're saying you're gonna not forgive, but I'm just gonna use that word. You're gonna forgive them for not having the paraphernalia, but not the city business license.
Well,
Yes,
I'm looking at that we have
So-
three occurrences on 2 occasions now of not inquiring into and doing due diligence
To get a city business license.
follow the bounds of the laws for conducting a said business.
They now have a city business
Right.
license. Separate from today's criminal investigation, there were items on display related to the city ordinance as well, on display with price tags related to
Today.
the use permit that we're here for today, yes.
I think once is a mistake, twice, I'm not buying it.
Well, my concern is that if we're in an appeal position, that we're having an appeal tonight for a denial of a permit, and the business is still putting that product out, advertised for sale, that's a huge concern.
Yeah, I think if I can just chime in, Mr. Mayor. First of all, the city's ordinance requires a use permit in order to conduct drug paraphernalia sales. Drug paraphernalia sales are otherwise regulated by state law. What constitutes drug paraphernalia, the way in which it can be displayed, the fact that it has to be in a separate room, people under 18 are not allowed. Those are all state law rules that preempt the city's ability to further regulate drug paraphernalia sales. What I think the city can do is regulate as a land use, from a land use perspective, where this type of operation occurs. And so we've done that by limiting these stores to, I guess, commercial districts and requiring a use permit. So really all that was before the Planning Commission was whether or not they satisfied the requirements under the use permit rules, other than the sign. The sign obviously is a different thing that wasn't appealed. So what I see happening now are additional facts being raised related to the conduct of the applicant that occurred after the Planning Commission hearing. And I do think that if those actions are going to be the basis for the council to make a determination about the use permit, we should give the applicant the ability to respond as due process would require. So I guess because of that, I would say at the very least, if the applicant isn't prepared to respond at this point, it doesn't sound like the representative is even aware of these facts, it may make sense to continue the item anyway to October so that they can determine how they want to respond to the new facts that are just being brought up today.
All right, and do we have any response from our representative based on what we've just learned?
The only thing I can say is I'm learning a whole bunch of things that I didn't know either. The only thing I can say is whatever the PD is doing takes precedence. It needs to be number one. And if there's some twisted thing in the law that is going to get you guys in trouble and make it difficult for us, if we decide something inappropriate today, my suggestion is we just put everything on hold and let all this come to a surface, and then you guys can make a decision at that time, even based upon what you've been indicating. You know, I don't know what else to do. I mean, you can deny it, you can approve it, but it seems like there's all these nuances that occur, and I think everybody just needs time to figure out what's going on, and on behalf of my clients, obviously they're not here, I'm gonna have to speak for them. We'd waive the 45-day time. It may be, you know, the old saying, you're innocent until proven guilty, but it sounds, let me back up. It needs time to figure out what the surface of it is, and I think it's fair to give them that time. I mean, I've heard what's been said, and it's...
So I'd just like to seek some clarification, because when I was in the store today, I spoke to somebody on the phone who stated that they were the owner. They originally were going to come in, then they told me they were on their way to Sacramento. Later, I had somebody else in my lobby requesting to speak to my sergeant, who claimed to be an owner, and I believe that's maybe who you are here representing, so I'm not sure as to who actually is the owner of this business at this time. Because the person cited was, I believe, the person on the phone, not the individual that came into the lobby today after the
The
incident.
person cited was Sam, or goes by Sam, or...
Mr. King, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sergeant King.
I don't know. I think if we just table this thing and let the truth come to light and then make a decision based upon that, I think is the best thing for everybody. It protects the council. It gives my clients time to figure something out. It gives them time to do what they want. That's just my suggestion. I don't know.
All right, well, thank you for your response.
Yeah, thank you.
If there are no further staff responses, we will close the hearing.
May I ask Sandy a question?
Yeah.
Sandy, is the building owner and the business owner two separate people?
I would have to research that.
Okay.
It's owned by,
I believe so.
Yes? Okay.
It's, the building's owned by Legend 295 LLC. The
Okay.
person that claimed to be the owner that was cited on the previous incident is one of the representatives listed with the state. The person that was in the lobby today is not listed anywhere on the paperwork, but
And-
states to be a financial backer.
And does the person that owns this own any other business in our town?
Are you asking me?
No, Justin,
sorry.
or,
Well, that's difficult to say because I'm not sure who's involved here at this
okay.
point, because again, the person that was in the lobby is not on any of the paperwork, but came in, picked up paperwork to be here tonight,
okay,
is claiming that to City Hall that they are a financial backer, but there's no known ties.
That's the problem.
yeah,
All right,
okay.
It's a serious problem.
so we will now close the public hearing, and we will move on to city council discussion of project, if any, before we take action. Is there any further discussion from the council? No, we've heard quite a bit.
Did I make the same motion, or did I already make it?
This is the point where we would entertain a motion.
Motion to table.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Um,
You want to discuss?
So further
Yeah,
discussion?
one, just,
Could I just ask the city attorney one thing? What, oh, it's not, oh, now it's green, okay. Do we need to table this to a date certain, or can we simply table it?
I'm sorry, was that addressed to me?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I-
City attorney, yes, I'm sorry. I said the other part with the mic off.
I would recommend that you table it to a date certain, but it's not absolutely necessary. It can be re-noticed. That's the difference. If you don't do a date certain, then we have to incur the cost of noticing the public hearing once again.
Thank you.
I do have one question. When we list a corporation or when we list an LLC, are the names of the officers at all listed with our permits? That's for Sandy.
There are some owners listed on the business license application, yes.
Okay. Just wanted to know that, so that when we're responding to these to people, we're responding to the correct people, whether they're asking our chief questions or our officers' questions or our staff.
Mr. Mayor, I think that our staff recommended from the jump that we table this. I think we have to listen to our legal coach. I think that we need to table this just for the opportunity of for the business to prepare for it. Our indecision what we were going to do basically led them to believe that we're not going to take any action tonight as far as determine if we were going to need to uphold deny their application. So I think we need to table it.
Yeah, and I would probably agree, but what I want is if we do table it, that when they come back, we know who we're talking to and who owns everything, so that we're,
Well, in the
so
case
that
of
our
the,
questions, when we ask them, are directed to the right people.
well, in this case, we have someone who's representing that corporation. And so that is a fair representative to have that discussion with.
Okay.
My last question, and I'm sorry questions keep raising, is we need to consider a time frame when we make this, if we go forward and vote to table this. Based on previous experience with the district attorney's office, do we anticipate that this would be reviewed within a specific time period, 60 days, 90 days, 30 days?
No,
what is reasonable?
The reasonable amount of time, the district attorney's office, it will go into a stack already on their desk, and they will get to it in queue as they work their way through that stack. I mean, they receive multiple cases per day from all over. They are very understaffed and very busy. Siskiyou County District Attorney's Office does a very good job of getting to the case in a timely manner for the size of an agency that they are. But I cannot tell you how long that's going to be. It could be, they could review it within 60 days. They could not review it for, a year and a half. I can't tell you when that will be.
So it's go ahead.
But in the meantime, they're still open for business. And I think you're looking at, I'm looking at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture says they made a mistake in the very beginning. Now they've made 3 new mistakes on what was found today. So we're going to deny it, or we're going to table it. In the meantime, are they going to continue into their businesses? How do we?
Well, my thought to that is, if someone is going to continue to conduct business that is not legal, then that would be dealt with through the proper legal channels. If that continued, we can't make hearsay and conjecture on what the business is going to do going forward.
A question: what do we need to do about that?
Well, at this point, if they've been cited and they've been,
to look at it,
then they know not to continue with that activity.
I will also add that there may be some new regulations coming down from the governor's office and public health just as little as less than a week ago that may affect some of their sales too. I did not look for those items in there today, but there's new regulations coming down that will affect some of the items in there as well that they'll have to come into compliance with. Mainly anything with THC now is going to fall back to cannabis dispensaries, will not be able to be sold in tobacco stores, gas stations, anything like that. So any item with THC, whether it be a drink or even the most minute amount of vape with, it's mainly CBD, but it has the THC, it will fall back to a cannabis store. So that's going to affect, may affect some of their sales as well in the future. So.
Well, I would like to modify the motion for the tabling to give a distinct 60 days in lieu of the fact that the representative has agreed to waive the 45-day requirement, and that it will likely take a minimum of 30 to 45 days before it goes before the DA's office to review. Now, I understand that there's a possibility that it may go longer, but I feel that 60 days is a reasonable time frame, and we can review the appeal at that time and make decisions, if possible, based on the facts that are presented then. And so that is my amended motion.
For clarification, Mayor, that would probably be, if we were doing it to a date certain, would be the first meeting of November.
Yes.
November
Which is
14th.
very, yeah, I don't know if it's exactly 60 days, it might actually be a little bit more, but
Yeah,
very close.
but
So
I'll amend
okay.
it that we go to the November regular city council meeting to table the appeal process till then.
Very good, I think that accomplishes your purpose, thanks.
All right.
So, and as a point of order, is that, because I understand there was a motion by Councilmember Tavalero, so is that a friendly amendment that Councilmember Tavalero is
Yes,
satisfied
for
with?
60 days, yes.
And
Or November
Councilmember Hall, I believe you seconded it?
Yes,
That's okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a friendly amendment.
yes, friendly amendment, agreed.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Beat the heck out of that one.
All right, now we'll move on to council business. Item A, finance by motion. Council received draft audit and consider resolution number 42, 2024, accepting and filing the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 basic financial statements audit report.
Questions from Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie, you're up.
Did you want me to present? Or I thought that was a motion to accept.
Well, so we're,
But that's a good motion, by the way, but anyway. Yes, I'm
Friendly
here.
public comment.
I'm sorry? Okay. So I'm here to, mainly answer questions, with regards to the audit report that hopefully all of you got. And also just to touch on a few of the summary items and kind of recap some of the things that were discussed with the audit committee. And then the audit committee themselves can answer any questions from the city council that you might have for them. Okay? To summarize the audit, and all of you should have received what we call a communication letter to governance at conclusion, which kind of lays out a lot of the distinct areas of the audit, how it went, audit findings and things like that. It went really smooth, a lot smoother than 21-22. So the good news is that we're progressing in a very good way. Excuse me. And so I think that the city staff, the staff that you have right now, I think the learning curve is on the downwards slope, which is good, and so I think it's a good team going forward. I think 23-24, I'm looking forward to kind of getting back to a much easier audit, less audit adjustments, and maybe even zero audit findings. So I do commend the city staff for all that they did. I had no difficulties in the audit, no difficulties with staff, we had no disagreements and all of that. A lot of standards are changing, so Jill's going to have a lot on her plate as far as getting prepared for the 23-24 audit, and even some of the things we discussed with the audit committee as far as 24-25, some of the standards that are actually changing and things that the city will have to be doing with regards to their financial statements. They're not super complex, but they're things that definitely need to be addressed. One of the big ones is risk assessment. That is now going to be, before you always had to do risk assessment, you kind of do it in real time as things come up and you're discussing risk here and risk there. But now they want significant risk in your audit report. So that's going to be a big change, and it's going to require the city to kind of look out 12 months. And this is in footnote number 2. You can look, it's in the audit report, footnote number 2. So it's going to require the city to look out 12 months and kind of give the significant vulnerabilities with regards to all of city operations, not just finance. Okay, so we discussed different ways to get that going, and so the city staff will be working with city council to get that going. As far as financially, the city's in good position. The big, amount that was due to the general fund from the water fund got taken care of during 22-23, so that's good. I think the biggest thing, as we all know, was the mill fire. That's the big event that happened during 22-23. And during the month of June, towards the end of June 23, was when the settlement proceeds were given to the city. So as you may remember, I'm sure you all recall that was approximately $7 million that was received for the city. Now, in the general fund, you can see that not all of that was put forth as or recorded as revenue. So it's very important to understand kind of the division that we did there. One of the big division is that we took approximately 4.5 million of that and recorded that as deferred revenue. And that's really related to all the work that was, basically estimated to be done, and that those settlement proceeds were going to be paying for infrastructure, streets, roads, things like that. So that way it doesn't show that, the fund balance of general fund went sky high and everybody's thinking, okay, we got a lot of money, but no, we don't, or you don't. But the remainder of that is considered general revenues, and so I listed it as an extraordinary item, so it kind of sticks out on the revenue and expenditure statement, and so you'll see that there as well. But I want to make, just give everybody an understanding of what we did there, and that will make a lot more sense when you're looking at the financial statements. But other than that, there's nothing in here that is, alarming or that I need to point out. So I'll open it up for questions if you got any questions for me.
We asked. We got answers.
Yeah, and you guys asked a lot of questions tonight, so you probably all questioned out. So.
Did you learn anything that you need us to know?
No, the big thing that I took away from our meeting was, one, I'm very excited as someone who has a lot of experience to corporate governance that we're going into risk assessment. I think that's going to be a positive benefit for the city across the board. And I'm extremely thankful and elated that we have not just a good audit team, but a good team here at the city between the leadership and finance and all of the department heads who came together to provide the information and help us to move forward. The city of Weed has made great strides with all of the adversity we've had in the last few years, and the finance department is one of them. And so it's very exciting to me, being relatively new on the council, right, that we're moving forward with such positive motion. So
right.
I didn't have any questions. I felt that reviewing the documentation that was provided to the council was sufficient. Hearing the questions and learning about the new processes coming up was extremely helpful as well. But those were the big takeaways, is really what you just did to explain to our number of viewers at home and to the people here in this room, I think was the key point. And the fact that we don't have any outstanding or highly enlightening findings is a
Right.
very positive thing, so.
Right. And just to just say a little bit about the findings, the findings are rolling forward from last year, for the last couple of years, just because of, as you guys all know, the turnover that's happened, and the kind of the late audits, and as you get the late audit, then you get the late audit finding, and then that whole fiscal year has gone by, and so I think it's moving forward, and going into 23, 24 should be real good, real solid, so, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, and again, I would say thank you for the staff that's putting in all the extra time, and you, Charlie, and I'm happy with what I'm doing, so.
Good.
Let's just keep pushing it forward, I would say.
Yeah.
And the finance committee too for getting on top of that and doing what needs to be done.
Head in the right direction, as we like to hear.
Next
Next year, Jill will be coming in with a smile on her face. Ah, nice.
Nice. But I took out of the meeting that we have a good team, and with a little bit of work, everybody will be a little sharper come the next audit, so that your job will be a little easier and a little shorter, and so will Jill's. So
Right.
hopefully we'll have to dig through a lot less work or a lot less paper.
Right. Okay.
All right, if there are no other questions or discussion, I would entertain the motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 42, 2024, fiscal year of 22, 23 for approval.
Second?
All right, we have a
Mr. Mayor,
motion.
just as a point of order, I can't see the room. Are there no individuals?
There is
Okay.
no public, yeah.
Then I will
I'm not
refrain from my
derelict in that
usual
responsibility this
admonition.
time.
Charlie was our last holdout.
Yeah, right.
All right,
Thank you for indulging me.
thank you for verifying. We certainly want to make sure that the public
And now Charlie's leaving.
can be involved. Unfortunately, our public all left after the last item, so. All right, well, we have a motion and no public. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now on to item B, administrative. Council will consider selection of recruiting firm for city manager. We have 3 proposals we've reviewed and give direction to staff.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, the 3 firms in front of you are all established firms that have done a number of city manager recruitments. 2 of them specialize in California. One of them seems to be more to the northwest, but wanted to make sure that we knew that they also do this area as well. So each proposal outlines their experience, the key staff, their approach to the project, and how they see it. The decision before you tonight, I think, can be separated into 2 parts. One is if you all saw that there was one firm that you really all liked, you could choose that firm tonight. More likely is that you would want to interview either the top firm or maybe more than one, 2. I don't know that you need to interview 3. And in a meeting that would happen very quickly because time is slipping into the future. Already looking at the schedules in here, you can see that very easily you could be in the holidays, and it's just difficult to do recruitments during the holidays, but I think sooner is better than later. The other thing that I will mention is that not necessarily in the selection of the firm, but later in the process, you may want to involve the council members elect who won't actually take their seats until December, but will definitely be involved with the new city manager. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. The proposals, as you mentioned, are before you, and you can decide whether you would like to choose one this evening or choose one or more to interview at a date that we work out both with your schedules and with them.
Well, I can start. I looked at every letter. I don't know how everybody else treated this, but I I looked, the first firm who was operating out of, I think we termed it the Pacific Northwest primarily originally, but I think we were corrected, but they seemed to be the most frugal. But I don't believe it included everything. The second, I believe, was it Wayland? Is that the name?
No.
Beckman and McKinney?
Yeah, McKinney. They were kind of in the middle, but they also had recruited areas such as Ione. I think, was it Anderson? There was a few in there.
Anderson, that's the one that I liked.
Is that the one that, no, but there was one that had recruited some city managers from all city sizes. That was attractive to me. And one of them involved the city of Ione, which is about 3,000 or 4,000 people.
Yeah, that was Beckman and McKinney.
That was McKinney, yeah.
They rose to the top for me. Their fee was one all-inclusive. That means there's not gonna be any hidden fees, or I shouldn't say hidden fees, but unexpected travel expenses, et cetera, that could come later. I did like the fact that they had recruited city managers for towns that were similar in demographics to the city of Weed.
Yes.
Towns that were, in rural communities, mountainous communities, and with some of the same challenges that we face here. That was, I think, the thing that stuck out the most. All three firms seemed to be very qualified, and they did have quite a list. I did notice that the other firm, number 3, had a lot of recruitment in bigger cities in Southern California and the Bay Area. But I don't know that recruiting for that type of environment is really going to translate well to our needs here in the city of Weed. I definitely would like to move forward with having an interview with the second firm. And based on what we saw in our handouts, I think I definitely want to talk with them. For sure. I don't know what the rest of the council felt as far as the firms that we were presented with. If there's agreement to move forward discussing with them, or if there's other firms that the council would like to have discussion with as well.
I would point out one other thing with McKinney is that they seemed to have one point person, which to me is more attractive. So if you have an issue, there's that one person you can go to. He may not resolve that issue, but at least it's a good head start.
When I think a single point of contact to champion any kind of consulting effort like this is critical, because that person's going to take ownership. And as you said, they will come back with resolution if they don't have it immediately. And so I do appreciate, that was one of the many factors I appreciated from them. But in regards to the comment on cost, this is one of those things that this is a significant position for our city. It impacts everyone, from our departments to our citizens. And I feel that it's important that we don't cut corners and spare expenses here. I'm not saying that we should be overspending per se, but we need to take into account that this is one of the most pivotal and critical decisions that we will make that will impact our town in the near future, including our upcoming council members and our current and future staff. So with that said, the two firms that had the higher ratings were very close together, and all within a small margin of our original budget that we had allocated for this process. So I don't think there's going to be any overages or major surprises there that will impact our finances.
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, on we have to make the best decision going forward.
Yes, and I do agree with the bringing in our appointed council members
Absolutely.
to be a part of this process, because they're going to be working with this individual in the future, and I certainly would want to be involved with the decision to hire on and bring a candidate forward that I'm going to work with for 4 or more years. So.
Well, and the candidate needs to see who they're gonna be working with.
Exactly.
We can, yes, but they need to see it also. I had left my paper at home, but I have it now. That Peckman McKinney, is that the one that you liked?
Yeah.
Okay, that was number 1 on my list.
That's, yeah. I
So
agree with
shall
that.
we arrange for, do you want to interview?
I think it'd be good to interview, just so we can get questions asked and answered. I'm certainly not
Interviewing
one,
just this firm?
yes.
Okay.
I'm certainly not wanting to delay the process, but again, I don't want to cut any corners here. I think it's imperative that we are confident going forward with both the recruiting firm, to make sure that they're going to meet all of the requirements and the wish lists that we have as a council and as staff to make sure that when they're doing the process of recruiting, that their process is going to meet our need.
So, what I'm hearing from you is that you would like to, have a meeting set up with, Peckham McKinney. And we'll work out that, trying to do it as soon as possible. The city attorney reminded me that at probably the same time, we will need to, take some sort of formal action authorizing a contract. I was looking at selection, but there also is authorizing the signature of a contract. So if, with your permission, we'll try to set up a meeting as soon as possible, probably next week if we can make it with your schedules. And with the can't remember the name of the gentleman from McKinney. We'll shoot for that or possibly the week after, but as soon as possible. Does that sound?
Sounds good.
Am I interpreting what you're?
Exactly.
Okay, very good.
I mean,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a point, just because I'm an old timer and I'm not gonna be around that much longer on the council at least, is that I think it was in 2011, we hired our city attorney for $72,000 a year. And we're looking, I mean, I want the public to understand what's happened here as far as, we're starting off at, what is it, 150? In 14 years, there's been quite a change. And I'm more inclined to think that getting somebody good, I mean, when I'm finding I want to make this point. There seems to be people come in maybe 5 or 6 years and we start over every year. And if we're going to do that, why not start with somebody that's younger, that's hungry, that understands they're not coming in because they don't have the experience, they're not coming in at top rate, but they're hungry. And I think because fact is, unless we have somebody with skin in our community, they're not only going to be here 4 or 5 years, 6 years.
Well, I think there's several considerations there. One, the pay scale is something we need to discuss with the recruiter. It's certainly going to be based on experience. And two, I would like any candidate to have skin in the game, so to speak, and being part of our community and working the best they can. One thing we have to keep in mind is that age, nationality, other protected classes are not a factor. I would certainly be okay with somebody, regardless of their age, as long as they fulfill the requirements that we need to be a team player, to be a part of the community, and they put 110% of their efforts forward for this staff in this town. And so, but I think your overall sentiment, and this is something that I've received letters from the community at large, as well as I've heard, comments and things as well directed my way. There was concern from several of our constituents here in the community about the pay scale. And so that is something that we need to really review and discuss with the recruiters based on the experience and performance that we expect and whoever that candidate selection is. But that's part of the candidate selection process. I think right now these are all good things to keep in mind when we have that discussion next week with the recruiting firm. Their job, and the reason we don't want to cut corners with them, is when we set forth what we're looking for in our requirements, whether it be in pay scale, experience, and abilities to perform, that's what they're going to do for our city, is they're going to go forward and find us those candidates to review based on that criteria. So I think that's all good things to bring up for the recruitment call next week.
I would like just to add, Mr. Mayor, that I understand all of the skin in the game, but when we have a recruiter, we can't control the applicant pool. and we don't really know what that is at this point in time because we're a little bit early. I too have heard a couple complaints from the community about pay scale, but I think we can govern a little bit of that with, I remember there's been discussion all the time, and with rank and file, I will take exception to the fact that we have upgrades because of educational requirements or training. However, when we hire a city manager, we're hiring a city manager hopefully with all of that training behind him, and so that pay scale that you initiate is based upon that. So for rank and file to get upgrades because of extra learning or extra skill sets, I'm fine with that. But when we hire a city manager, I would expect that those folks are coming to the table with those skill sets already in place. So I would caution us, because I think those little things kind of get out of hand. And I think that's one of the reasons that we're getting into a position of pay scales being imbalanced a bit. So anyway.
Well, and I think that our experience with previous city managers and administrators and their performances will lend quite a bit of discussion to our meeting next week with the recruiter on exactly what we're hoping to achieve with the recruitment process. So at least we're going through this process with experience, and very excited to move forward with the recruiter. And thank you, City Manager Baker, for bringing us 3 great firms to review. So very much appreciate that.
Can I add one thing just real quick? We should really pay attention to the backgrounds. When they do a thorough background on a person that may potentially be a hiree for a city manager, I think we should pay attention to backgrounds.
Coming from an experience in corporate governance, background check is critical for all positions within an organization. So I agree with that sentiment.
That's one of my biggest issues would be, we need to do a way more thorough background. I'll leave it at that.
All right, any more discussion from the council? Okay, well, we've got direction for staff,
And before you leave tonight, I'll be asking for you to drop by and we can talk about your schedule for the next week so that I can coordinate something.
Perfect.
All of us or
Thank
just
you.
him?
All of you.
Everyone.
Special meeting.
For a special meeting?
Yes.
That's correct.
This will this involves the entire council.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
So.
Would it be too much to ask for someone to kind of initiate a pay scale for city managers in the county? Is that too much?
So what I would recommend that you do is, at this step in the process, is you're going to be talking to a recruiter. One of the questions that you will have of the recruiter is, what are the implications of our pay scale? I think that having that information for the county is not nearly as useful as having that discussion with the recruiter.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
That makes sense. Is it out of line for us to try to have a meeting at 8 in the morning with the recruiter?
It'll all depend on the availability of the council members.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll review that with the city manager after the meeting.
I'm gonna get out my piece of paper that will resemble a calendar and figure out what
I
works.
have to get out my heart monitor at 8 o'clock.
Oh, that's right. 2 a.m.? You can be there.
Okay.
At 2 a.m. I'm
All right. So now we'll move on to staff reports, and of course we'll start with Chief Duncan.
Good evening. I do have a few things to announce. We did receive the grant award for the slip-in tanker unit. That will be going in my truck. However, it has to be manufactured, so it will be installed. It has to be installed no later than June of 2025. And Cascade Fire will be the one to install that. They manufacture everything in-house and guarantee it for life. So we did pick Cascade Fire. And with that, we also, Chief Carter and I dropped off the chassis for the Type 3 build at Cascade Fire because we wanted to, review their facility. And they do make everything in-house. They make the tanks, the pumps, everything. So the Type 3 will also have a lifetime guarantee on it.
Excellent.
Which is a good thing. And that'll be ready before the summer fire season. Yeah, for sure it is. We did get declined for the 50/50 matching grant for CAL FIRE, and the reason is they gave me was just, there's too many applicants and not enough money, so, and we put it in for radios, so I made a suggestion. We always put $10,000 in, they pay $10,000, so we can still buy some radios for $10,000, which we would pay anyway, so getting prices on them right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't give you too many, but it's a start, you know. We're getting up there. We're getting good at it. Engine 1214 was assigned to the bridge fire. They're on their way to LA right now. They left this morning for an assignment, strike team assignment. They'll be there. Whoa. They'll be there a couple weeks at least.
Wasn't me.
We sent 3 people. We have 4 back here, just so you know. Still running calls. We did hire a new sleeper volunteer. He's also an EMT, Edgar Martinez. He started August 31st. We spent a lot of time training him to go on fires. He actually went on one of the biggest fires we've had, Summit, not too long ago, which is a structure fire in a commercial building. That was his first fire. So, and Assistant Chief Carter has also interviewed several other sleepers. No decision has been made yet who to bring on. So during the mill shutdown last week, we trained 200 people in confined space and rope rescue in that week. We completed re-inspections of the property of fuel mitigation, just to keep you updated. We have 6 people that haven't complied. One of them just got evacuated. He called me, said, I'm not going to make it down there, which to me would be a good time to make it down here. He's evacuated, but anyway. One of them is in the works, and the other 4 haven't responded yet, so I did give them a second notice that's been issued. The City of Weed and CAL FIRE participated in the annual stair climb in remembrance of the lives lost yesterday on 9/11, 2001. The firefighters climbed 110 floors in honor of the 343 firefighters who made the ultimate sacrifice that day. Emergency calls, we ran 37 medical calls, 3 fires, 18 service calls, which could be anything, lift assist, public assist, whatever. 4 hazmat calls for a total of 62 emergency calls last month. That's all I have, thanks.
All right.
Huh?
We didn't get any other grants.
Yeah, we did, but I know you're gonna ask me a lot of questions about that grant, and we don't have the answers right now.
Okay.
It's a fuel mitigation grant. We did get that grant. However, we have no paperwork on it yet. I can't even tell you anything about it until we get that paperwork. Once we get that paperwork in, which will be probably reported next month, but it's a significant grant that we got for fuel mitigation for around the city. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Director Porterfield.
We started implementation of new software that started a couple weeks ago. Should be complete within this fiscal year. We got them to move their schedule up a little bit. So it's a process we're going to be going through for the entire year. It's going to involve all of finance staff. And we got some grant requests off today to try to get a new roof for the city hall, and Public Works has some paving projects, and there was some money out there available from USDA RD. So got some requests off for that today. So that's about it.
Excellent. Always good news.
Yeah.
Director Davis.
Yes, I'd like to go ahead and start off with the water bypass project update. And actually, I got a couple handouts to go ahead and give to you guys.
Just to remind the council, this is just a staff report update, and since this has not been agendized separately, we should keep questions to a minimum.
So right now, everything that's in yellow has been completed. They are going down, making their way down Butte Street this week, and hopefully up to the tanks here shortly. They've been moving on pretty good with no hiccups lately. Yeah, lately. The Lake Street Rehab Project, that project has been completed. All the utilities have been raised. The museum has been finished, is actually back open, and they will be open till October 30th, is from my understanding. And then the Lincoln Heights Road Project, we have submitted, like Jill said, a USDA grant, and that is a 25% match for that one. That will be repaving all of Lincoln Heights and the burned area. That will be good. Something that's pretty well needed. We will have a new building inspector starting on Monday. His name is Steve Sluss. We're actually very excited for him to get going. And then as far as Public Works crew, I did have Ryan Carpenter that started about 2 weeks ago, and he's doing a really good job.
Excellent. I'm very enthusiastic to hear that we're filling positions and that we're, needed to be filled. So great work on that, and looking forward to meeting our new building inspector next week. All right, Chief Mayberry.
Well, for the month of August, the police department had 1,869 incidents, pulled 52 cases, 24 arrests. We had 10 traffic collisions. Speaking of traffic collisions, the school year has started, and you've probably got seen some of the normal complaints about speed in the school zones. We are up there on a regular basis as we can be. The first week of school, first week and a half was interesting in that we had 3 felony incidents during morning, not related to school traffic, but during that time, so we got pulled away. But we have been out there pulling people over. Sometimes they get a warning, sometimes they get a ticket. One person got arrested. So, we are out there despite, I do understand that the streets are narrow and sometimes it seems like people are going faster than they are. We have various speeds anywhere from down to 15 miles an hour all the way up to, 30 miles an hour when somebody else is doing 15 seems like a lot. So we are out there though. About a week ago, the Sheriff's Department, we assisted them on a traffic stop. They requested our K9 Drax and his handler, Corporal Green. They went over, K9 Drax alerted on the vehicle, and not kilos, but pounds-wise, approximately 4 kilos or a little over 8 pounds of fentanyl was seized. So you may have seen the post. The Sheriff's Department put one out thanking us for the assistance, and I believe KOBI 5 actually had a little blurb on it too as well. So other than that, that's all I have.
A lot of activity.
4 kilos, 8 pounds. Yeah.
That's a lot. Anything more than 0 is too much. So, all right, and our city clerk.
I yield to the city manager.
Well, we'll go on to our city attorney.
Well, I do have just one tiny announcement too.
Okay.
And that is, I understand that the Chicken Shanty, since there's been, when will that be open? And the best I can tell you is October. But they are moving forward with, we understand that they've gotten through some of their inspections. They still have some equipment to move in. So anyway, gotta know when those food places are open. Anyway, now you can go to the city attorney.
I generally save the city manager for last, but it's okay.
Oh, okay. Well,
we'll
he's sitting behind you, so.
We'll let David go last, especially since he's not here in person. We miss you.
Well, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Likewise, I do have no report this evening, so sorry to keep you in suspense.
You look rested, though.
You look rested. That must be the vacation.
All
Well,
right.
except for getting COVID when I got back from vacation. Otherwise, it was great.
Sad airplane.
Well, hopefully you'll be fit as a fiddle, and we'll see you in person next month. All right. And that concludes everything from the agenda. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Damn, you're.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Heavy, huh?